Ajit Sivadasan.
So I have a tight agenda, I think 30 minutes, and there's a lot to be spoken, so I will stick to the agenda. But look, before I start, I think yesterday we had a dinner, and I went to the dinner, and I met some wonderful people, all of the speakers. I can tell you that you're going to have a great day, because they are really, really talented people, so you're in good company. I was disappointed because I was the only one who was drinking. And I kept drinking till like midnight, and all these other guys left. I think they wanted to look sharp this morning. So I know they're going to be also very, very active. I need a clicker. All right, look, the agenda says that I was going to go talk about Lenovo and how we built a billion-dollar, actually multi-billion-dollar online brand. I'm actually not going to talk about it because it's too painful, and it's taken me 13 years to do that. Instead, what I'm going to really spend time today is talking about digital disruption. Because look, at the end of the day, we are all trying to figure out, like Antoine said, what's the next big thing? And when I start thinking about where I want to go, I really look at trends and what's happening in the world. That really grounds me in understanding what is going to change. So, look, it's the best of times. I live in the United States, so you know what I'm talking about. And it's the worst of times because, you know, I'm living in the United States. And we got a president who's crazy. So,
Yes, of course, it's my thing.
Doing everything.
Yes.
what happened? You agree that he's crazy? So, look, we've got lots of political debate, socioeconomic problems around the world. But when it comes to technology, I think we are having a fantastic time. And here's three things that I really, really think is happening that's going to be interesting for all of us. The first one, we know that technology is really, really uprooting a lot of industries, redefining it, re-stratifying it, disintermediating it, and really redefining where and how things are going to get done in the future. We all know this, that's why we are in this room. But before I do that, let me ask one question. How many people here are e-commerce people? How many are digital marketing people? Anybody else in the room? Okay, all right, very small number, must be special people. Look, the second one that we really have to think about is demographics. How is the world evolving? Because see, demographics plays a very important role in defining how nations, in fact, how the universe is going to change. You know, 1940, 1950, you know, I studied under Peter Drucker. I always talked about demographics as being very, very important. And we could actually predict 30, 40 years ago what's going to happen to Japan. Japan has an aging population, has lots of issues. They have to actually change their entire immigration policy to really deal with what that nation is going to go through. So understanding demographics is really important. And we stand on the cusp of a pretty significant demographic shift, which is called this digital millennials, people who are actually born in the 80s. Okay, 80 through 2000. 2000? I'll talk about that. But the point is, they are redefining how technology is consumed. See, you can have the greatest technology. If people don't adopt it, it's not going to go anywhere. So there needs to be that ingredient, and that's why demographics is really important. And then finally, there is a significant amount of value creation opportunity. If you really think about what's happening, you can actually think about all the companies that are coming along. There is a significant amount of investment. I mean, 30 years ago, if you really compare the investment dollars that's coming out of Silicon Valley or any of the investment think tanks around the world, it was nothing. And you think about what they're spending today, investing in new technology, and by the way, access to money is so much more easier. So these three drivers in my mind is really redefining commerce and literally like everything that's around us. I mean, commerce is a very narrowly defined segment. I would say just everything in society, all right? Is there a timer somewhere that tells me how quickly I need to go? 23 minutes, okay. Look, the first thing that I would say that's happening is user experience redefinition. I know this is one of those terms that everybody uses every single day. There isn't a single day that I don't go to the office where I hear this term about 50 times. Now, it's a good thing and bad thing. Good thing is people start ignoring it. Bad thing is people start ignoring it. Good thing is it's really important to people. So user experience for commerce people like us, like look, Lenovo is not a commerce company. 95% of our revenue still is traditional channel. But you know what? Who am I competing with? Who am I competing with? I'm not competing with Dell. I'm not competing with HP. I'm not competing with Apple. I am competing with Amazon. Because Amazon is defining what user experience is. The customer is not saying, look, I went to Dell's website, look at how good it is. They don't care. They're like, look, I went to Amazon, I got a computer in 2 days. You guys take 15 days. So definition of user experience has changed. Now it's become a global definition, especially for e-commerce people. So here's the first lesson. Don't look at your immediate competitors. They're not defining the experience. It's somebody outside the industry, most likely. In my case, these are some of the leaders. They truly are defining aspects of the value chain that is really, really important. So if you're really doing competitive analysis and really trying to figure out how to have a commerce experience that's wonderful and a user experience that's outstanding, stop looking at your competitors, start looking at these guys or whoever comes in tomorrow, all right? So I talked about this generation of people that's going to really redefine how technology is adopted. Call them the millennials. There's a lot of information on this slide. I will take you through this very quickly. These are people who are born between 1980 and 2000, okay? There are about 80 million of these people in the United States and 2.5 billion people worldwide, okay? They are going to be 50% of the workforce by 2020. That is next year, 50%. By 2030, another 10 years, that'll be 75%. So what do you think is going to happen to the economy? Who controls it? Who makes all the decisions? These guys make the decisions. And therefore, everything that we are trying to do, everything we are trying to change, we got to start thinking about what the millennials are going to think and do. How many millennials work for you? A lot of you are very young, but like in my office, like a lot of the people are in their mid-40s and 50s, right? And some of them don't fit into that 80 to 2000 age group, right? So how you have your workforce look at the problems is really important. Bunch of people with gray beards shouldn't probably be making a lot of decisions because they are not the best of consumers, right? All right. If you really think about disruption, and this is a good slide that encapsulates what disruption truly means. You got a taxi, the world's biggest taxi company, and I met somebody from Uber here yesterday. Is Uber the biggest taxi company? The biggest company that has hotels is Airbnb. Biggest phone company is WhatsApp and WeChat and Skype. So the list goes on and on. The companies are redefining industries based on digital disruption, right? And this, by the way, is just the start. Just the start. I don't know, in 20 years, 30 years, how many of these companies are going to be in the top 10? I think there's going to be many, many other companies that are going to probably be in the top 10, right? So disruption is taking on a big, big, big change in the sense that the disruption is happening on the services side. It's not even physical disruption. It's really a service disruption. A lot of this is service disruption. So one way to think about this is, hey, what are the types of disruption? The service disruption is the one that e-commerce facilitates the easiest. But trust me, there's going to be all kinds of disruption that's happening. That's why I'm saying that there's going to be a lot more coming. This is just the first step. Okay, no conference these days are complete without talking about AI, machine intelligence, deep intelligence, all kinds of intelligence. So I will spend some time talking about this. Look, I look at a few trends that are really important, where there is practical use cases that you can use for your business. The first one is the ability to recognize speech. Okay? 2013, that was 6 years ago, the accuracy was around 75% for ability to basically understand human speech. There's a threshold. and the threshold is 95%. At 95%, it's difficult to really distinguish. Okay? Human interface versus machine interface. So we just breached that. So now the machines can really understand 95%. The accuracy is 95%. So that's an important threshold. The question is, are you going to incorporate this into your user interface? And how and where? Have you guys heard of Duplex? Have you guys heard this example? Okay. I'm going to just play this very quickly. I don't want to bore you. But really, I don't want to use this in the same context as what you probably heard. I want to use it in a very different context. Can you play that video by any chance? You can't? What do you mean? You can't click on that thing? It worked the last time. No? While he's doing that, I don't want to lose time. So, look, this was an example that Sundar, who is the CEO of Google, on the stage, he showed that AI was able to do things where you are not going to be able to understand whether it's a human being or not. And then he made some phone calls to a restaurant to make a reservation. And he successfully showed that the reservation went on well, and there were some glitches. He was calling all kinds of interesting things. The interesting story is not that. So that's fine. So AI is going to do that. The interesting story was the controversy after the fact, about the fact that the interface was too human-like. So people are now panicking because they don't know whether this is human being or not. So this drives ethical questions about how you should use AI in interfaces. Okay? So I thought it was interesting. If you follow and you go and search for Google Duplex, you see all kinds of commentary about ethical implications of how AI is being used. My sense is that it's going to get worse. It's going to probably get worse, right? So anyway, I'm saying, look, technology is great and it's disrupting a lot of things, but I think the bigger challenge will be legislation, governmental interference, issues with privacy, people having to really think about how to deploy some of these technologies that are very human-like, both on the biology side and on our side. Okay, let's talk about search. Do you know the world's biggest search engine? Google? How about Amazon? Almost 50% of all searches are done on Amazon. I know I have a colleague here, Rudy from Google. Sorry, Rudy. The guy's got to start looking at some other revenue streams. Look, so search is no longer the domain of a search engine, right? And I'm sure Alibaba and some others have probably pretty hefty volumes that they can actually claim to have very high amount of search. The question, why is this important? Why is it important? Because when you control 50% of all searches, you control the journey of the person who is starting a purchase cycle or anything, research cycle. So that is a pretty big deal, right? Look, I won't go through this. This basically is talking about search moving to image-based search, voice-based search. Search is going to go through a lot of transformation and disruption. So if you're not thinking about search, if you're just thinking about search as a search engine, and by the way, our search engine that I use, and I hate to say this, we got so many challenges even on the regular search engine. When you search, stuff doesn't show up, you got to force manually stuff, and natural language doesn't work, then I got to integrate my services side with my transaction side, and the data is all screwed up, I cannot prioritize the right way. Lots of issues. When you're talking about 100 countries, and you're talking about 1.5 billion visitors, that is kind of what my domain is, it is very complicated, okay? And then now we're talking about image search and voice search and all this other stuff. But look, this is where the world is. You got to really figure out how to do this, all right? Now, if you really think about monetization model, why is search important? Because Google is becoming more like Amazon, and Amazon is becoming more like Google. One is monetizing search and getting into commerce. The other is taking commerce, but then monetizing search. So business models are truly changing. And companies, as they are going through this process, they have to figure out how they're going to monetize these assets that they are producing. Unintended consequence. Pretty sure that in 2000, Amazon wasn't thinking they're going to be the company that does the most amount of searches. But now suddenly they are. And so they become very, very valuable for people like us who want to advertise, right? So business model change is dramatically happening. Question for you is, what's happening in your business? Is there a business model shift that's coming? Are you able to anticipate and monetize? Okay, the next one is smart devices, IoT, sensor-driven technology. Stuff that is watching all of us and hearing everything we say and then giving us recommendations on the things that we don't want, but making it look very compelling. We are guilty. We also make products similar to that. Now, what is interesting is, if you really think about the evolution of smart devices, this is what happened. It was launched in early part of 2015, only 4 years ago, Alexa. And look at the number of skills Alexa had. Basically nothing. And the install base was very low. 2017 Q4, this is a little dated, right? Or 2018. Look at what Alexa is able to do. The number of skills, the ability for it to perform discrete activities, 30,000. So you can actually use Alexa to basically launch a rocket ship if you want. I mean, that's how smart that thing is. Although I have an Alexa, which I have probably used about 10 times, and mostly for checking weather. That was wasted $170. But I know people today are using it in much more meaningful ways, and I want to tell you how. How many of you use Alexa properly? Anyone? Show your hands up, I can't see. I see like 2 people. So these are the real gung-ho, die-hard geeks who really are trying to test the technology. I got a few friends like that. But look, the use case is different. The use case is really trying to integrate all of the senses. It's about speech, it's about your typing ability, and then seeing. You try to integrate all these 3 to figure out how to create a digital experience in your home that is compelling, that is going to take away friction. That's really what you're trying to do. So what are the applications, right? I think I screwed up the slides. If you don't mind, I'll just go back. Look, so if you really think about it, there are a few things that people are using, right? You have augmented reality, you have virtual reality, you have smart home and smart essentials. The smart home, smart essential category is a big category. Now, what is the smart home, smart office category? What does it do? You can actually control pretty much everything in your house using your phone. You can change the temperature, you can control the lights, garage door, you can basically even integrate Alexa to order stuff off of Amazon on pretty much everything you do. Washing machine, fridge, whatever it is that you have. So you can technically integrate all of that stuff. Temperature control, reducing cost of electricity in your house, all of that stuff. So if you haven't done it, highly recommend you do start thinking about it, because a lot of the homes, people are doing it, right? In the US especially. In fact, we commercially make a lot of these products. We are selling a lot of these products in the US as an example. The ecosystem is much more evolved in China. We have like close to 1,000 products in the Chinese market for the Chinese consumer. So surprisingly, there, the adoption is much higher. I don't know, there are a lot of Chinese colleagues in the space, so I don't know. Yeah?
I'm not a Chinese colleague, but I'm a...
You don't look Chinese, I would
I
say.
don't look Chinese, but I have that kind of smart home, Chinese, digitalized world experience as I lived in China for 10 years.
Do you like it?
It's amazing. So convenient and fast.
See? Real life story. Don't believe me, believe her. I don't have anything smart in my house. That's what my wife tells me. Look, we have been talking about augmented reality, and we've been talking about AR, VR type of applications. And quite frankly, it's been disappointing. There's been a lot of hype, and most of the stuff is people kind of playing some war games, wearing some awful mask. But the reality is most of the use cases are commercial use cases for AR, VR. And I want to just show you some of the applications, vertical applications, broad applications. Some of it is medical, some of it industrial. These are all real. This is happening right now. So whenever we talk about AR, VR, people talk about movies and a movie theater and having this great experience where they're like, oh, it's like moving a spacecraft. That's like this much, and nobody's using it. It's all of the other industrial applications that are really important, and that's really going to disrupt. So if you're in any of the industries that does any of these things, you should be thinking about AR, VR technology that allows you to become more efficient, remote, you can teach a lot of people remotely, you can make doctors more intelligent, you can reduce patient mortality, lots of things, right? I won't go through this. Look, in the interest of time, I'm going to try and get to the last couple of things here. The last couple of things. One is about payment systems. Look, the biggest pain in the ass if you're an e-commerce person is payment systems. As I go around the world trying to integrate payment systems, it has been very, very traumatic because half the time it doesn't work, there is fraud, my orders are held for like 2 days before they're released to the manufacturing. Manufacturing is 30 minutes, my order release is two days. So customer experience, you talk about the friction in the system. Payments, in my mind, is one of those places that has tremendous amount of friction. So here's what's happening in payments. The biggest innovation is coming from China. I was in the Beijing airport, and this lady came, walked up to the vending machine, she took her phone, she flashed it, she got a drink. And I'm thinking, I need a drink, but I don't have Chinese money with me. And I'm thinking I ought to use a credit card for like $2. So think about it. Everything is connected. WeChat, you can pay so I was in a taxi and somebody wanted to, basically, I have a WeChat account, but I don't have any money in it. But my friend paid for the ride using his WeChat account. So they have figured out how to consumerize elegantly, remove all the friction out of the system. And this is where I think, in my mind, right, if I had one thing to tell Facebook, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why is this not integrated already? Payments, if you can figure out a way to integrate into your social media or whatever interfaces you have, you should do it, because let me tell you, it is a huge deal for consumer user experience. So if you can fix that, you'll get ahead, right? But obviously, lots of regulation. You go to in the US or EMEA as an example, lots of challenges. But I want to tell you that biometric authentication is going to be pretty big. By the year, 2022, 1 trillion transactions will be authenticated using mobile biometric solution, $50 billion worth. So it's a pretty big deal, okay? These are some examples. I was conflicted whether I wanted to share anything from Lenovo or not. So these are some examples of kind of how and this is not very elegant, still very painful. So look, we do all these things to get our payments done in about 40 countries. So tokenization, PCI compliance solution, all of these guys got it, but it's all very painful, too much friction, okay? We have a lot of alternate payment methods that we use in different parts of the world. In EMEA, we have 14 countries that we run through Digital River. They host the checkout. In South Korea, we use what is KCP. Colombia, we use PayU and Mercado Pago. In India, we have CC Avenue. But look at it. All of these things, I got to do point-to-point integration. It's painful. Half the time it's like down because something is wrong. Some guy is like hacking away at it, and there's fraud for like $2 million that I don't know of at the end of the month. Okay? So lots of challenges in payment. And while there are a lot of alternatives, I feel that this is an area you got to really think about what some of the biometric stuff China is doing and some of the other progressive countries are doing around payments, because I think that that could be a competitive advantage. Okay. Now, Look, the big disruption that's happening is retail. I just read a report that basically said more number of retail stores have been closed in the United States and is continuing to be closed in the United States for the last 5 years. Like every year it's been increasing. And it's going to accelerate. About 25% of retail space will become obsolete in the next 5 to 7 years. It's a big deal. You're going to have a lot of mall space with nobody in it. Okay? Even Amazon can only buy a few. So, what is retail doing? Look, retail is very essential in many parts of the world. I come from India as an example, and India, look, it's very, retail is the way of life. China, same way. So retail has a place for sure. And what is happening in retail? Because I think retailers can take advantage of a lot of this disruption to their advantage. And many of them are. So here are some examples. Man, I got, have you guys heard of blockchain? Who uses blockchain here? Anything meaningful? You making money out of it? Or is it just losing money? I put some money to buy Bitcoin when it was at the highest level. Then I got a Bitcoin account that my wife keeps reminding me is worth like nothing. So that was a good experience. I got like 80 Ethereums or some nonsense like that. But look, the technology itself is quite sound. I don't know this whole Bitcoin thing, where it's going to go, but the technology, the digital payment, digital ledger technology is quite sound. And you know how people are using it? They're using it, so this is, if you don't know, this is what it is. It's a distributed digital ledger, highly transparent. There is no central authority. There is no clearing bank. It's all like transaction that gets mapped every step of the way, and there is no ability for people to commit fraud, other than people stealing your Bitcoins from the bank. That's a different story. But the ledger itself is pretty sound. You know, the use cases for this stuff, believe it or not, is used a lot by the governments to prevent fraud in voter registration, for property registration, two-way contracts. So that's where they're using a lot of blockchain. We don't use that much. I mean, our use cases are not, I don't know how I'm going to use it. I mean, we might, but at some point, but we're not. But if you are, these are some of the use cases people are using it for. Supply chain authentication. If you have a huge supply chain problem, you could use blockchain as a way of simplifying it, making it transparent, making it more reliable. All right? I have not seen this yet, but it's there somewhere. So the drone technology is becoming quite good. In fact, there are people now flying drones. Have you seen this? There's a commercially available drone that you can actually fly, like you can use it to go to work. Have you heard this? So I think even before this comes, you can actually go to your office in like one of those drones. But this is interesting. Remember how I started the conversation. You're not competing with people like Dell or HP in my industry or whatever industry you're in. You're competing with these guys. Their last mile efficiency is within hours. They tell you you have something coming in like 2 hours. They're updating every 10 seconds. I can tell you, Lenovo, we don't have that. We are with DHL. They don't even know if it's in the same damn country. All right? I got to call them and say, what do you mean? What do you mean? I was in Brazil and Argentina last week. I was like, DHL takes 10 days for last mile delivery. I'm like, it's called the last damn mile, walk it. And they're like, no, it's very complicated. You got to send it somewhere, here, there. And this is DHL, they're a big company. And I don't want to beat them up. They do very well in the rest of the world. But in some countries, they're pretty bad. And so who am I competing with? I'm competing with people who are vertically integrated, have their own drone system, can do the last mile to the minute, to the hour. So competition is getting redefined. Talk about disruption in the last mile supply chain. Okay? Now, O2O, you probably all heard this, but let me show you some couple of examples where Amazon is actually going the other way, and they're trying to partner with others to say, hey, how do we make sure that the retail experience actually works? So you can actually buy the tire, a Michelin sports tire. This guy seems to be a rich guy. $600 tire, Amazon Prime, and then he can get it sent to the Sears Auto Center and get it installed. Pretty seamless, right? Probably Sears will live for a couple more years because of that. Or in the case of this thermostat, Alexa, Amazon Alexa room bill sensor, I don't even know what the hell it is, but something interesting. You can pick it up in Kohl's, which is another retailer that's really on its deathbed. They sell clothes in the US. And look, I'm not trying to be disparaging because it's like, it's tough to kind of talk about people losing jobs and the companies going out of style. But look, it's very definite. They are going to be in a lot of trouble, right? No other way to say it. And then the final one, I don't know if that video is going to play, but what it says is you can actually have sensors in your fridge and it'll basically order stuff, milk, eggs, whatever it is, groceries, washing machine. You heard this. So the sensor-driven technology is here. Hey, look, it's working. Is it working?
Life today is busier than ever. You have a lot to get done and often don't have enough time to squeeze it all in. What if you didn't feel like you had to be in 2 places at once to get everything done? Walmart just may have a solution. It's a new concept we're testing with companies like August Home. The idea is you can choose to receive orders from Walmart.com, not just to your door and left on the front porch, but securely inside your home. If you're not home, rather than leaving the package on the front porch, the driver enters a one-time use code using the August Home app. You're alerted the moment the driver enters the code into the keypad, and can even watch the delivery as it happens through home security cameras. At Walmart, we're testing all kinds of new ways to make shopping faster and more convenient, so you don't have to be in 2 places at once. We're moving fast to find more ways to save you time and money because, well, you have a lot to get done.
You see what I'm saying? You can buy eggs delivered to your fridge. By the way, a lot of the technology that I talked about, the smart home technology, was shown in that. I don't know if you caught that. You know, the camera, the opening of the door, all that stuff, and then connected through the phone, all of that is the smart home technology. Okay. I'm out of time, so I'm going to skip this. But basically, this is a store you can just go in, buy whatever, and walk out and don't have to worry about anything. Takes care of everything. It's called the Amazon Go.
English class that you just
What happened? Okay, so let me just quickly run through what we talked about, okay? So digital disruption will continue to evolve on the back of new technologies, machine learning, deep learning, AI. I think we are just at the beginning stage, maybe not even at the beginning. It's just ground zero. A lot of things are going to change. The customer value chain will continue to be disintermediated and optimized. The quest will be to make customer experience completely seamless. So wherever you see friction, you can expect that to get disintermediated. Payments, as an example, is going to get completely disintermediated because there is so much friction. So everywhere that you see friction, you know there is something coming. So that's an easy way to predict like where change is going to come from. Millennials will increasingly drive the adoption curves to make the world more connected at every level, imagined or otherwise, okay? They will drive adoption. And by the way, it is going to be a step change. Like it's going to be, and then boom. These guys are going to be like, what do you mean you don't have this? Right? So it's going to be like a bunch of people like us, and then suddenly the generation changes, and it's like everything is changed. So we are very close to that threshold. I probably think 10 years that threshold is going to happen. And it's like suddenly it's going to be like, oh, what the hell? Investments into newer, faster, better will drive continued opportunities into commerce, omnichannel, and retail. We know this, but there is tons of money. So anybody who's an entrepreneur who's thinking about doing something, this is the time to do it. There's plenty of money. And in some cases, they don't even care if you get a return. Like in India, Flipkart, it's like, never make money. The final thing that I think is going to be the biggest friction for all of us to deal with is this thing about privacy paradox. I think data, handling data, you already see this. You already see what's happening with Facebook. You see with a lot of the companies there is going to be tough regulations. And it's going to be I think it's going to take a lot of time and energy to explain to governments how this whole thing works. Part of it is that they don't understand, and part of it is that technologists don't know how to explain. Because having seen the C-SPAN between the technology companies, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they're trying to explain, and our senators, as an example, in the US trying to understand. We have to get through that stuff. EMEA is even worse. Europe is even worse. So between EMEA, United States, and China and other big countries, you got to really figure out, India as an example, big problems, trying to figure out how to deal with privacy issues and data issues. This, if there is anything that is going to slow down digital disruption, is this thing, having to deal with this governmental regulations. Look, that's the time for my pitch. I don't want to be too late. Thank you very much for being patient. I hope you have a great day today, all right?